All right, welcome to the best of Microsoft Ignite 2021 Spring Edition. We're going to talk about some really interesting and impactful capabilities that were talked about last week at Microsoft Ignite. We have an ensemble cast of awesome presenters here today, and we're going to get right into the content. So to introduce them, my name is Nathan Lesnowski. I'm Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer. And let's talk about these people who are here to talk about Ignite. We got Anthony Escobedo joining us from Florida today. He is a technical architect. He's been on other webinars that we've done and will certainly be in others. So welcome, Anthony, to the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, Nate.
We also have Stephen Campbell. Stephen is a senior data analyst and excellent person around the world of Power BI, recent Microsoft MVP. I'm glad to have him here for the conversation. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And then we also have Lewin. Lewin is Microsoft MVP. He's a principal architect at Concurrency. He builds IoT contraptions in his garage. He is the man. So welcome, Lewin.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And we also have Min. Min is also a Microsoft MVP. He is the better half of the Min brothers, and he is here to talk about all things Ignite that are specifically data and IoT and all sorts of things in between. So welcome, Min.
Glad to be here, Nate.
All right, cool. Let's dig into it. So we will be talking about an introduction to Ignite. We'll talk about specifically 10 things that we think are important. We are going to spend some time on the things that we think are really practical impacts that your business can benefit from. As much as we all loved the augmented reality on the Fire Festival sort of elements of Microsoft Mesh, I think there's some really interesting things there. We're going to talk about everything else, and we may come back to that augmented reality at some point. We're going to focus on everything else that kind of surrounds that, the way that makes its way into the practical aspects of business. And we also want to invite you to some upcoming events. We're going to deep dive on a number of these topics as we hit our upcoming events. The next one, and I'm sure this is going to be very, very popular, is talking about Microsoft Viva. We're going to be talking about employee productivity, Microsoft Viva, how it relates into Teams, what it means to SharePoint, which is a big question. Let's talk about that on March 25th. On April 8th, we have a great conversation about Power Platform and its relationship into Dynamics and that whole business applications, low code, no code, workflow space. And then on April 22nd, we are going to deep dive into Zero Trust security. And we're going to do so in the context of real life ransomware, a little bit of live hacking, a little bit of here's what happens to you and what Zero Trust security means to that at a very detailed level. And don't miss that conversation. That's going to be very, very meaningful and impactful. All right, so let's get into our top 10. We got tons of content. Let's hit our first two topics, which are about Azure Percept and Synapse Link. Talking about IoT, talking about Edge and in relationship to data, break this down for me. Lewin, Min, what does Azure Percept mean to the way we think about IoT, the way we think about the Edge?
This actually explodes, right, in terms of what we do with IoT, what we do with devices, and how we interact with all the given abilities like cognitive services, suite of ready to go, right, the low-code solution that Microsoft is, made available for all of us developers and end users. With Percept, right, it actually allow us to run IoT and AI type of workloads instead of from a device, right? Instead of from one of these, little more, microboards, you can actually do it across these, put away on your, on-premise area that actually talks to each other. Additionally, also actually, connects back to the cloud as well and give you more power, right? More enhancements that is actually beyond capable, that's not actually available about a year ago, right? This is actually moving on to the next step, allowing us to get real-time data, get real-time cross, cross service and cross, AI features on devices.
Yeah, you and I were talking about a customer the other day that needs real-time on-premise analysis of quality. Stuff going off their manufacturing line, and we asked them the timing they needed. It was like a second or less. And this is sort of a scenario that fits with that, isn't it?
Yeah, this will fit well, and not only does it fit well, right, it also actually allow us to have multiple systems set up as well, so that not only can we do things like potential custom vision, right, we can look at other things on top of it, like other areas that we're looking into, such as OCR, right, additionally done on premise without actually hitting the cloud, so that you're looking at that real time recognition being a lot lower, right, latency gets shorter as well. So this is like a lot of this opens up a lot of areas for things like warehouse environment or production environment, right? This is and it scales really well as well.
Talk me through a little bit about what's happening in this picture here. We've got looks like line analysis.
Yeah, this picture shows a lot, right? And I mean, this is the concept that Microsoft is talking about. We're looking at a scenario where you got a line, you're looking at using custom actually computer vision in this case, we can actually see people. We can tell you, a person, right? We can tell you whether it's male, female, age, whether if they're wearing glasses, so on and so forth. Additionally, if you look at that model and then put on other models on top of it with this Percept features, right? We can actually look at other additional things like, we can get into whether if a person is feeling happy, right? Contentness, right? We can actually look at from a facial features. And additionally, if we put in the other things like temperature, right? I mean, look at the situation we're in. We have pandemic is still ongoing. All those we're covering it. It's still a nice feature to have, to be able to say, hey, we can look at remote temperatures, right? We can look at other things on top of it, and recognize who the people are coming in if we want to as well, right? So sky's the limit in terms of what we do. And the best part, like I said, is that we don't have to hit the cloud all the time. Either if we don't have to, we can actually do everything else locally, talk across various services, and then hit and then get the data from the cloud to enhance it even more.
Oh, awesome, man!
Yeah.
So many things to talk about here. I think this deserves its own. It deserves its own webinar. So we're going to deep dive into that another time. But just awesome content. Let's talk about the relationship between that and Cosmos database, and the relationship between Cosmos database and then Synapse Link to provide big data reporting. And we've got a couple scenarios where this has been pretty relevant to us. So I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, Cosmos database is where most of our IoT data, right, transient data, stuff like that goes in initially, right? If my hot data path, typically, if I'm designing an IoT solution, doesn't happen all the time, but a decent amount of the time, that's where my hot data would go to. And due to that, right, we also can actually now use Azure Synapse Link to go and look at queries on this data and actually do, look at ML and services that we can actually run directly off the data coming in from Cosmos. I mean, additionally, right, we're looking at data areas. So, Min, if you have anything from that perspective from data that we can now pull in, feel free to jump in as well, right? This is going to be areas I think you can clear a bit more. From my perspective, it actually makes Cosmos a lot more useful in terms of instantaneous data that we can send, we can start, recognizing and processing right away, as well as replication and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the biggest thing that, a lot of this stuff is now bringing more capability towards the edge, right, of things, and allow better analysis and at a slightly cheaper / scalable capabilities throughout the whole using the different data sources, right? It's also like with Azure Synapse, there's a lot of new stuff that's coming down the pipeline. With Azure Synapse Studio and stuff like that, ways they're definitely pushing towards like low code, no code approach to make it to make data and AI much more feasible to the general masses, right? Doesn't mean that you're gonna not need a data scientist or an AI specialist. No, you're still gonna need them, but it makes it easier for you to be able to implement things at a much faster rate.
Yeah, I was thinking about a project that we're on where we're connecting an IoT, a connected vehicle platform to an IoT hub with data flowing into Cosmos, and then extracting that data using Azure Synapse Link to be able to surface the analytical data versus in the past when they were this company was just using a Mongo database to do everything. And it seems like we provide a much more scalable solution.
Yeah, this makes it a lot more scalable. It makes it a lot more real time. Well, not that it wasn't providing data real time before, right? It gives us a lot more scalable real time. And the biggest part in this particular case, right, is that we can also look at data because it's actually in Synapse. We can actually take it into other areas, and we can actually spread across other business needs as well, right? Not just on a telemetry that coming in and out of it. We can actually use the telemetry to do some analysis, right? For example, we can say, hey, particular, let's call it a heat pump is failing, right? I'm making up a device right now just to look at the scenario, right? Or a particular item could be going down a wrong path. We can actually predict that a lot quicker, a lot better, with a lot more other endpoints. And the other thing to talk about, right, is the role-based access control, right? With that, we are also securing the data properly from various people. I mean, internally and externally, right? Not just from external users, through other APIs and so on and so forth. That we can do fairly easily. Now we can actually do it internally as well. Let's say if R&D department is working on something, with the data coming in, right? No other people can look at that data. That kind of flexibility is going to be there as well. So it actually expands this area of data from devices into it explodes it in different ways. So we can even
Awesome. All right, let's continue down that path into data platform as a bigger picture. And two of the announcements this week were around Synapse Pathway, which is an accelerator to get content into Synapse, and then Purview, which is a governance platform. And maybe to start that off, Min, you want to break down just sort of the difference between what we've traditionally done with our analytics platform, especially what legacy platforms that are based on ETL and highly structured and report delivery, to exploration. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so I mean, in the past, what we normally do is just take some sort of like Azure Data Factory, suck in the data, dump it, and we would just put it into a data source like SQL or any other data form, right? And then we would then analyze it through older technologies like SQL Server reporting services and so on and so forth. But as we're seeing with the technology migrating towards a newer, more easier approach, we are now starting to Microsoft definitely has invested quite a bit, and we are implementing a lot of Power BI solutions, right? This is where the stuff with the Azure Synapse that we were talking about just previously, the Synapse link is going to start helping things out better. So now we are putting a lot of our data into Cosmos DB for data analysis at that point, right? We can use it for bigger data crunching, like like for machine learning. We can use it for easier use of like Power BI and so on and so forth, right? This is where the Synapse Studio is going to be awesome, where it's going to help. It's pretty much going to help marry all those skill sets together, right? Where it makes it almost a level playing field for most people. You just need to point to the data streams that you need and let you focus on what you really care about. So if you're a data scientist, you're going to focus mainly on like the Azure machine learning component of it. If you are if you're trying to visualize the data, then because of with a unified experience of the Synapse Studio, you can say, I'm going to grab the data from these locations. I'm now going to focus just on Power BI and do the data visualization on Power BI. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day where it comes from. It's going to it has one unique source that you can grab and manipulate and give you the presentation at that point.
Yeah, it feels like they're serving the visualization and the ability to just give me the data, right? Just give me the data and I'm going to explore it.
Well, the other thing is this, right? Back in the day when you're running through reporting services, you have a set of report that comes out and you're stuck with that report, right? There is a set of finite data that you only have access to. You don't have access to raw data. You don't have access to anything you can manipulate and get additional crunching, right? Now with the right team, right people that Min work with, right? We can. I think sky becomes a limit in this case as well. I believe that's what we're looking into, and that's what we are getting in, right, in terms of scaling and in terms of future proofing and giving clients direction as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the latest stuff coming down on Azure Synapse, like you got stuff like more dedicated serverless pools, so now you can scale things a little bit better in that sense. The Synapse workspace is going to allow you to enable and turn on like Azure Purview Power Search, right? More powerful searching capabilities throughout the whole process. So it's really
so hit on that a little bit. What's Purview and how does it play a part?
So what it's going to do with all of that is one of the things that came down is on Purview, it's now going to allow you to connect to like a more private endpoints, so you can get data in a data governance, right? In a more secure, correct data format that you want, right? So you are now figuring out which of your employees or which data gets to which location. So when you pull the data, you can figure out where you're getting the information from, and it's like filtered out. So like if I'm HR, I get all of the information, but if I'm a manager, I only get some of the information, right? I don't get all of it. Yeah.
It's sort of like, like what Lewin was saying, where like historically we might be presenting reports to people, and that's how we might be, probably incorrectly, but that's how we might be scraping what they have access to. But in this case, we're providing them, in many cases, access to the content itself, and we need to be able to A, let them navigate it, and B, determine who can get access to what within the broader estate. Does that kind of go in the right direction?
Correct. It's all about data governance at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that the information is correct, that we're going towards giving people the right information and not unnecessary information.
Well, this becomes a data play, right? Especially in this day and age where we are looking at multicultural, multinational, data engagement models, right? So, we have worked with clients that are, defense contractors, right? Where they have people that are stateside that can look at certain set of data, and then they have data that gets sent over to other nationals, right? Other countries within the US and outside of the US as well. When they actually move that data, who gets access to it? All of this becomes a giant, potentially a nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. And right, your team and Purview actually comes and fixes that for us. And Purview actually does it, definitely makes it easier.
Awesome. Well, let's take that into the use of this. So they've released all this ability for us to be able to accelerate the movement of the data into the cloud using Azure Synapse Link. We have Pathway. We have that exposed in Synapse. We have the ability to discover it with Purview in an appropriate way to your role. And now we have productivity tools that leverage all this. So there's three of the best ofs that we want to talk about in this section. One is Microsoft Viva, how it plays a part, the Power Apps and Power Effects, and then also Power BI Gen 2, which is a huge aspect of the relationship to understanding data and surfacing it and understanding it. So let's start with talking a little bit about Viva. Anthony, you want to hit on this and just tell us what even is this? What is Viva?
Sure. So I guess for the first topic, when it comes to the productivity tools and the features that were announced, there weren't a ton of announcements. There, like with previous Ignites, there's usually so many that you can't count them. I feel like when it comes to the number of announcements in the productivity area, you can almost count them on one or two hands, depending on what you're looking at. And it's not that we didn't announce a lot of features. It's more if they just pack a really big punch, and that's where Microsoft Viva plays its part. So there's 4 different modules with Microsoft Viva. What it is just driving that user experience platform. It's going to be more of that digital culture that what Microsoft is now trying to tackle with the remote workforce. So with Microsoft Viva, they have the four different modules. And let me just start that I think that all of these are really exciting. The one that's really getting me going right now, most importantly, is going to be Viva Connections. It's doing more with what you already have. everybody already understands SharePoint at this point. It's in Microsoft Groups. It's, it's the back end for, intranet. You're using it for news. On Microsoft Teams, you're storing, files there. It's the back end of OneDrive. So we all understand what SharePoint can do for us, but now this is kind of putting, it's revealing the curtain of what's next for SharePoint. That's where we see Viva Connections really driving, SharePoint, Yammer integrations, global navigation, and it's bringing all these things together and promoting, organizational culture right where everybody is already at, and that's going to be through Microsoft Teams. So really exciting, interconnectivity through the roof, and that's going to be Viva Connections. And I think, like we mentioned earlier, this could be its own, webinar in itself. But Viva Connections, super excited about it. So Viva
and it will
Insights
be in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So Viva Insights, same thing. Really exciting stuff. We have Workplace Analytics out there that already does bits and pieces of this, but now wrapping this with some more, I guess more of an end user perspective on it, allowing the people to understand what insights they have at their fingertips through the Insights app on Microsoft Teams. If you haven't downloaded that yet, it's out there in the App Store and you're able to take advantage of that. It basically pulls together like to-dos just based on how you word things in emails and in Microsoft Teams. It's pulling that information together and then making sure that you're as productive as possible. So again, just the team and organizational workplace productivity and improving your workplace habits. That's what Microsoft Viva Insights is going to do for us. Viva Learning, this is going to be Microsoft's version of a learning management system, an LMS. So it's that place where corporate can create those learning journeys. It's a place where you're going to be able to connect to Microsoft Learn, Microsoft LinkedIn Learning, and then also third-party solutions just like Pluralsight and other ones that are out there. So making it really easy, all within Microsoft Teams, to access that information. Not only that, but then to curate certain paths that you want employees or certain roles to take in order for them to be successful in that role. You want them to understand certain things. You can make a path, and then engage them to, follow that path. And then you can also track if they're kind of following suit, if they have questions along the way, and be able to understand maybe where some people are getting stuck and where, you would maybe adjust that learning path. So again, another great module, just something that has been, I think, much needed. And this is kind of, this is a brand new experience for all of us. So really excited to learn more about that. And that's something that hasn't been fully released yet. That's the one that, they're kind of keeping a little bit closer to them at this point, which leads us to Viva Topics, turning content into knowledge. So this is going to be a part where you already have all this content out there in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, now making this accessible for everybody. So allowing the experts to curate that information and then really turn that into knowledge for everybody to understand, and maybe even who to contact, what resources they can look at. So if you're thinking you're going to be going back to work sometime soon, right? Everybody's kind of has that vision in the back of their mind, whether it's next month or it's next year. It's something that you want to bring people along for that journey. Viva Topics is going to be able to do something like that, where you can follow topics. So let's say it's remote work. You're following that topic, and then it'll gradually send you information and be able to keep you along that journey as there's more information, around that specific topic. So again, or if you're doing a reorg, or if you're decommissioning technology or upgrading technology, make that into a topic, curate that information, and then make that super available. So again, just very excited about Viva, and there's a lot more to talk about there.
Awesome. Well, let's drive that into productivity. If you're thinking about productivity maturity, this is certainly one of those angles. This next conversation is another one, which is talking about Power Apps and Power Effects. They keep doubling down on this, which is teaching everyone, not necessarily teaching everyone to code, but turning everyone into a developer with low code capabilities. Talk to me a little bit about, what was announced at Ignite, and how it relates to that mission.
Sure. Power Apps finally has a name for its language that's out there. So now they have it Power FX. It's always been this mystic thing that we just said it's a Power Apps language or called it something different. But ultimately, now that we have a language name, it's really exciting because now we can start to say that it's going to be applied to model-driven apps, Dataverse, Power Virtual Agents, and so forth. It's already what Excel has been using, but now just taking it to the next level and making it super available to everybody. So again, it's driving that citizen developership throughout the organization and making it accessible. With that, we have Power Automate Desktop. That's going to be actually, they're looking to make that a part of everybody's computer in the future. So with the next version of Windows, it's going to be attached to Windows 10, or I guess whatever that Windows is called, that when it's released, that everybody already has that automation feature on their computer. It's going to be a household name. And right now it's in preview. You can download it. I have it downloaded. Some of our sales folks have it downloaded. It's something that people are doing every day, and it's making it accessible. So it's in its infancy right now, but it's gonna, it does a great job, but there's so much more that we're tapping into, and this is just the start of it. And then again, Power Platform, authoring in Teams. This is something that kind of came out during the last Ignite, but now we're just, it's a lot more available, and they keep coming out with additional features for Ignite.
Awesome, thank you, Anthony. And additional capabilities coming to governance and tenant-wide analytics.
Sure. Very quick on that. They announced, I would say there's 3 large pieces of governance that came out for the Power Platform. One, they're with the COE starter kit, they pulled a lot of that knowledge that they found very useful for people, pulled it into the everyday life cycle of a Power Platform admin. Now you're able to see a lot of those same reports within the Power Platform admin. So making that available, that you don't have to go and update your COE starter kit to get those additional updates. This is something that they're going to refresh for you, and they're going to continue to build on that. So excited to see those analytics come through. And then there's additional capabilities with the connectors. So on the back end, let's just if we were to say with the Twitter API that you're able to use, which would be the Twitter connector, you can maybe only post from there. You can only maybe read from those connector pieces. So really making those available to everybody, but only in the right way. So putting those guardrails up around specific connectors. It used to be you can only have it on or you can have it off, and now they're just making that more granular, that you're able to kind of situate yourself better as an organization with how you want to use those specific connectors and allow those in your organization.
Awesome. All right, so Steve, tell me a little bit about what's happening with Power BI. This whole bunch of things dropped this week. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so as you mentioned earlier, Power BI Gen 2 came out. What this is Power BI Premium. A lot of this is around the premium features of Power BI. Now this is enterprise level Power BI, huge data sets, massive reporting, super fast analytics. The price came out, so Power BI Premium per user is $20 a month. Previously, we could only buy this organization-wide at $5,000 a month. So massive improvements there, making it affordable for everyone. You get, auto ML, cognitive services, auto machine learning, able to be part of your ETL process. Deployment pipelines, you go through, make it very usable. Deployment pipelines, you have a dev, a test, and a prod environment. You also get, now for just $20 a month per user, access to paginated reports. These are pixel perfect, kind of these reports that you typically send out as PDFs in emails. These are now available to be as a per user for only $20 a month. They did huge improvements in the back end with the premium. Large model support, trillions of rows. That's a million squared, right? That is a lot of rows you can support. You have a kind of 10 gig compressed limit when you upload a file, and it can grow beyond that. So these data can be huge. No longer really, need to worry so much about the data size. The other big one is the XML read-write. So programs such as SQL Server Management Studio, Tabular Editor, AML Toolkit, if you're familiar with some Power BI ones, these can all connect now directly to your Power BI models, and you can use these in other programs outside of Power BI. And the biggest one, which I'm really looking forward to, refreshable online Excel reports, which means you can have an online Excel file connected directly to your Power BI dataset using the same measures and the same KPIs. People can view this online without having to download it. It's refreshed as the dataset's there. You see it on the web. Huge advantages for people who still love their Excel, which I know there's many of.
Wow, very cool. That's a lot in a short period of time. So thanks for walking through that, Steve. All right, we're gonna go a little bit long just to give everybody a FYI. Hopefully you can stick around. want to make sure we do a couple of these extra topics here, due diligence. So next thing we're going to talk about is some things that are happening in the cloud platform. And there's two big pieces of this. One is auto manage, and the other is some of the things that are happening in the platform itself. So first to talk about is Azure Auto Manage, which sounds a little too good to be true, but I think it's important to note that Azure has had a lot of services in the cloud that have been enabled to allow for the operationalization of the environment. That's backup, patching, security, change tracking, logging, config management, and so on. So a laundry list of things that you do to have a well-managed environment. I think what Microsoft has found is that companies have struggled to build out and operationalize cloud, and the variety of things that they need to do, and especially the difference between what they're doing in the cloud and what they did on premise, is a departure and a learning step. So they've made it easy by building a service called Azure Auto Manage, which you essentially onboard a machine into, and as part of onboarding that machine, you get these capabilities enabled, checked, validated, corrected as part of having the machine onboard into the Azure environment, which is a great step. So in a similar way to which, maybe you have an online, you have a portfolio, a financial portfolio, you can still do it all yourself, right? You can still onboard, you can still choose, you can still do this, you can do that. But if you just want someone to do it for you, you can use Azure Auto Manage to make it a little bit easier to onboard into the managed environment. And that's where a lot of investment has been going, and it's going to be a nice forward movement for a lot of Azure environments. Another thing to talk about is the substantial number of new capabilities that continue to come out for the Azure platform itself. Private marketplace is key. Being able to scope back what's available to be able to be deployed from the marketplace to what the organization wants. Resource mover, an ability to move workloads from one environment, from one region to another region. This comes up often where companies have deployed accidentally production resources into the wrong region, or they simply want to move it closer to some other application. Resource mover allows us to do that. Arc-enabled Kubernetes. Brendan Burns did a great walkthrough of Arc in relationship to Kubernetes. Kubernetes has the fastest growing hosting service within Azure presently. And then also Jeremy Winter did a great conversation on Arc itself and the extension of that into the on-premise environment. Azure Backup Center, bringing all backups within the Azure environment into one view, something that wasn't something they were doing before, which was that a very distributed backup environment. Now we can allow us to visualize in one place. We have Azure Network Routing Preferences and also some new BGP capabilities associated with optimizing routing within the Azure environment, and then Firewall Premium, a great additional security feature, among many others. If you're really interested, watch Mark Krasinovich's session on Inside the Azure Data Center. So many new things that are happening in the Azure platform space. All right, let's hit Teams for a minute. Very briefly, Anthony. I am probably the gladdest person in the universe right now because this means I can get off of GoToWebinar and go on to Teams because Teams has a webinar capability.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's really great to hear. And Steve and I on the Milwaukee Power Platform User Group, we've been using Teams Live events as well, and it's doing really great. But when you're able to kind of use a little bit of best of both worlds, with this webinar and broadcast feature, it's going to bring so much more to light. You're going to be able to see the analytics just like you can in an event, the live events, but even more in addition to that. So seeing that come to light, and I heard about this during the last Ignite. It's finally coming around, this time around, and it's going to actually hit us this time. So it's really exciting to see that happen. PowerPoint Live is another one that's really exciting too, where you are able to basically upload your PowerPoint to the webinar or the broadcast. People are able to kind of fast forward or go back if they've missed a point. So that's going to be really exciting. And this might be something that other people have already experienced. We've had this with our preview, but now that's GA. Presenter mode, that's going to be kind of fun. It's almost like you're a weatherman on when you're presenting. You can point to things and you move around, actually, right on screen. So it'll be really exciting to kind of have more of an interaction. I think that's going to be great for the remote work that we're doing today. And moderation, you're going to be able to walk through a lot of these different webinars and the Teams experience a little bit more, just with additional functionality. And then last but not least, Microsoft Teams Connect. This is one that everybody's talking about, very exciting. From a channel perspective, you're able to have shared channels. So no longer, requiring you to share out the entire team. You're actually going to be, sharing out a very specific channel. And there's a lot more details to come out about that yet, on the technicalities on what's happening behind the scenes. But being able to share just that specific channel with somebody else, it pops up into their teams. You don't have to do the context switching between the different, organizations when you have to go and chat with somebody. This is going to be, make that, just so much easier to do that.
Man, so helpful. Switching organizations, such a pain in the butt. This is going to be great.
And the best part is, right, you don't even have to be a part of an organization to do that. You can actually invite anybody else if you want, right? You can ask anybody on, sitting on Gmail or Yahoo or whatever you want, and they can still join that channel. That's the best part about it. I'm loving that feature.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, last one, but certainly not least, is Zero Trust. There were a smorgasbord of sessions at Ignite on Zero Trust, on modern device management, on Azure AD Join, on distributed identity. Oh man, Microsoft announced their distributed identity platform, which you must look at, and the relationship of external AD Connect, the Windows Hello, so much. I mean, it was fantastic. So a lot of conversations about native Azure AD Join, CloudPrint is GA, status reporting management, just the idea of getting off premise. Man, if nothing we have been reminded of in the last couple of weeks is security risks that are happening within the on-prem environment, the opportunity to be able to move to native Azure AD Join, to move toward a Zero Trust way of implementing our identity, attack simulation training as part of the Microsoft platform that allows us to validate our responsiveness and ability to understand what happens if we are attacked, not kind of waiting for that yearly pen test, but allowing us to simulate that on an ongoing basis. Azure Sentinel now has 30 plus new connectors, a great session just on Azure Sentinel that everyone should watch. And then Defender for IoT and Azure Sphere, huge capabilities, just adding more and more end-to-end security story to even the IoT platform as part of the Zero Trust conversation. So much in this particular story, and we're going to be having a webinar just on this topic coming up later on at the end of next month as well. So we would love to dive into these in much greater detail with you. If any of these things are interesting, we love to educate, we love to learn, we love to workshop, we love to have conversations with you, just to open it up, just to talk about what's happening within the technology space, think about what might be meaningful to you, think about what technologies could be helpful to drive your business forward. Let's schedule that workshop, let's have a conversation, let's figure out where your business is going and where it is right now. So let's meet one-on-one, let's do it. Don't forget about our upcoming events, Viva, Power Platform, Dynamics, and ransomware versus Zero Trust security. These are really great topics, very meaningful, things you should know right now. Don't miss them. And also don't miss our blogs and videos as great follow-up. So again, thank you for our speakers today, such a great group. And also thank you for everyone attending to hear about what happened at Ignite. Hope you have got some really interesting information, and we will see you next time.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.